I'm Carl Keith, Montgomery County Auditor, and like to welcome you to another episode of Auds and Ends. Auds and Ends is a program that's hosted and produced by the Montgomery County Auditor's Office, and this is an opportunity for us to share some information with the community, to introduce some people in the community that are out making a difference in a variety of capacities. So we get to learn a little bit about them and a little bit about the organizations that they're involved with and the work that they're doing. And we're really pleased today to have two people from the Animal Resource Center with us today. Amy Bohardt, who is the Executive Director, is that your title, Executive Director of the Animal Resource Center? And Dog Warden, I know that's your title too. She is the official Dog Warden for Montgomery County. We also have Brian Baker, right? Brian Baker, and he is the Animal Care and Control Supervisor.
Yes.
Did I do that right?
Yes.
I got that right. Okay, so we're happy to have them both. Amy is a repeat guest. We had Amy on probably about a year ago, and so we're happy to have her back with us. And of course, it's dog license season, so that's one of the reasons we want to talk to these folks about the dog license and the work that the Animal Resource Center does. So, Amy, I'm going to start with you. Again, just tell us a little bit about the licensing and why it's important and why people should license their dogs.
Sure, absolutely. And thank you again, Carl, for having me back. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. Dog licensing is so important. Not only is it required by the state of Ohio to license your pet, but it is your legal proof of ownership. That tag being on the collar just ensures that your pet can get back home to you quickly and avoid a shelter if at all possible. Not only that, but in the worst case scenario, if your pet were to end up at the Animal Resource Center, we are required by law to hold a licensed pet longer for you to come and take them home than we are for an unlicensed pet. So your licensed pet, if it ends up at Animal Resource Center, we must hold that pet for 14 days for you to take them home, compared to only 3 days for an unlicensed pet.
So what happens to an unlicensed pet after 3 days?
Great question. So we do a lot to understand and observe the animal throughout the time that we interact with it, to the time that we're making decisions about what would be appropriate for that animal. But we're looking to achieve faster adoption, foster, or rescue placements for most animals.
There were some stories in the news media recently about the shelters being overcrowded, and not only our shelter, but just shelters nationwide. Is that something you just struggle with on a daily basis, I imagine?
Yes, it is. Yes, and you're right. It is a national trend. Shelters across the United States are feeling the exact same struggle, as are the shelters located here in Montgomery County.
So let's talk to Brian. You've been with the Animal Resource Center how long?
31 years.
31 years.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. But you've not been in your current position that long.
No, I haven't been in this position that long, but it's the same genre, the same thing.
So 31 years. So what keeps you going after 31 years?
I've always told people that I lucked out when I got this job at 19 years old. Yeah, so I'm not that old. But
so you've been there since you were 19.
Yes.
Oh, how exciting! Okay.
I've always been a people person and a pet person, and it just worked out so well.
Do you have pets?
Yes, I have a couple dogs and a cat.
Okay.
But it's worked out very well because I'm outgoing and I like to help people, and this has worked because not only can I get to spend time with animals, and it's mostly dogs, but getting to spend time with the dogs, and then like one of the most rewarding things is when you pick up a dog with a dog license, and then you see where it lives, and you pull up in the driveway, and the whole family comes out, tears in their eyes, just so happy to get their dog back. Those are the gratifying moments I remember so many times. That when I get a dog and it has that shiny tag hanging from its collar, it's just amazing.
So what's a typical day like? I mean, how often does that happen?
Well, there's no such thing as a typical day for an animal control officer.
Okay.
You never know what's going to happen when you come in.
All right.
You can come in, and each officer is divided up depending on how many people are working that day into different sections of Montgomery County. And you can have a stray that's been found, or anything you ever see in the news, anything from house fires to to police events, car crashes, bad things and good things. There are dogs. Dogs are a part of everything that we do, and we are a part of that. So when you see there's an event or anything that's happened on television, usually animal control is there in the background. But the animal control officers, they come in and they find out how exciting their day is going to be and what they're going to be able to do to help.
So, so it really means a lot to you. I can clearly say you know that that's what drives you, right? It's rewarding.
Yes,
it's
it is,
rewarding.
It is
experience.
rewarding.
Yeah.
I've never typically been a I want to do the same widgets every day type person. So coming in and the excitement of never knowing what's gonna happen, and then you do make a difference when you're serving this many people. Sometimes an officer may get discouraged and I'm not helping enough. But when you're doing one thing at a time and helping one person, one family at a time, one dog at a time, that's another aspect of this. Is dogs don't have a voice, and we do conditions checks and cruelty checks, and there are times when we are the thing that comes and steps in when that dog doesn't have anyone looking out for it, and that's another area that we make a difference.
You become their voice.
Yes.
You're the voice. Yeah. That's neat. That's neat. So let's talk about the licensing requirements. I mean, like you said, it's the law.
Mm-hmm.
It's the law. Every dog at 3 months of age
Correct.
or older is required to be licensed in Ohio. And what are the costs of a license?
So $24 for an unaltered pet, or $20 if they are spayed or neutered.
And that's the fee in Montgomery County, is because every county is different, right?
Correct. Yes.
But that's our fee, and I think it's been at that level for, gosh, a long time.
A long time.
Yeah,
Long time.
decades,
And there's a difference, like you said, there's a difference between altered and unaltered, and why is that? What's the significance of that?
Well, I think it's probably to go along with promoting the idea of spay and neuter as a responsible pet owner thing to do, right? Help to reduce overpopulation. Not only that, but spaying and neutering has a lot of health benefits to that individual pet in terms of preventing cancer and other types of things that can be problematic as they age.
Mm-hmm. If anybody's watched the Price is Right or Bob Barker or over the years, they always would end the show with, do your part, help with the pet overpopulation, have your pet spayed or neutered. And I think Drew Carey has continued that tradition
Yes.
on because it's a national problem. Millions of dogs end up in shelters every year, is my understanding. And millions have to be euthanized every year. Those are issues that our culture has to deal with, and so you're seeing that every day.
Yes, yes, we are.
The capacity at the shelter, how many dogs can you safely house at the shelter?
We can safely house approximately 80 dogs.
Okay, and then how many are you housing on a regular basis?
This year, on average, we're housing 90 dogs every day.
Okay, all right. Well, so you're at capacity every day,
Yes.
We are.
and that has to be a struggle as well.
It is. It definitely is.
But you have fosters and other rescue agencies that you deal with. Is that how you deal with that situation?
Yeah, in addition to adopters. Through all three of those, we try to move animals into loving homes as quickly as we can. We estimate in Montgomery County about 140,000 dogs live in this county.
Yeah. How do you come up with that kind of estimate? Is it a census thing or a Census Bureau?
Not that official. It's an American Veterinary Medical Association formula.
Okay.
And it looks at the population and the number of households in a particular area, and then it estimates that approximately, let's call it 33-34% of those households own a pet, and usually they own 1.6 pets, something like that, right? I could go
Okay.
on and on, right?
Yeah,
But then that's how we then crunch out, given a 500,000 population here in Montgomery County, we estimate that means at least 140,000 dogs.
So there should be 140. They estimate the 140,000 dogs, right?
Yes.
And we license
Approximately 34%.
about 34% of those. So, we're on a mission to try to
Yes.
increase that number. I know I've started doing some presentations with some service agencies and things, and we get asked those types of questions, and so it's good to know, where those numbers are coming from, and trying to encourage people to. And that was one of the questions I got asked recently was, is it the law? And it is the law, but there's all kinds of other reasons, as you mentioned, and to get their dog back safely. There's health reasons for having them spayed and neutered, so what we're trying to do here is encourage people to do the right thing, and do the right thing for the community, and do the right thing for their pet.
Absolutely. And I think one more thing to add to that is that people are less likely usually to intervene that lost dog if they don't see an ID tag on that collar.
Yeah, I've been out before, and you see a dog that's running loose, and if you see that they have a collar, you're right. You feel a little bit more likely to interact with the dog.
That is something I've seen over the decades, and it is proven that folks, if they see a tag hanging from a dog's collar, they will give up their entire lunch. They will go through and get some fast food. They will do everything to try to corral that dog to get the magic words or numbers off of that tag to get a hold of the owner. And in covering dispatch, people will call into dispatch and say, well, it doesn't have a tag, so we didn't want to mess with it.
Yeah.
But if it has a tag, it's magical. the different reaction that you get. People do everything they can to try to read that because they know that dog has an owner.
Has an owner, and an owner who loves the animal and cares for the animal and cared for it enough to put a tag on it.
Yes.
And so that you said that is the one. I've had people say, well, I've heard people say that, well, I didn't get a tag because my dog has a microchip. So if he gets lost, you'll be able to find it from the microchip. But it's like you said, Amy, the tag is the proof of ownership, right? Is really the only legitimate legal proof of ownership is the tag. Let's talk about the mobile clinic. I was recently at an event where the mobile clinic was out. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, thank you. So we were at Westtown Shopping Center on October 22nd, and we had a tremendous turnout. We were going to be there from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. and to serve 50 walk-up patients. And we were serving them in vaccines, food, and flea or tick treatment.
Okay.
And what we found was by 10:10 a.m., we had more than the 50 that we were prepared to serve. So we quickly worked through that logistics just so that folks didn't wait needlessly. But at the end of the day, we were able to serve 64 pets total. 45 of those pets had a license purchased at that event. 25 purchased microchips.
Okay.
It was wonderful. We were able to survey about a dozen folks to learn more about what they can do and what they need.
Were they able to be microchipped there? Were you able to do that? Oh,
yeah,
okay. Good.
Yeah, registered to them as well. So they walked away with that pet the chip having their name and contact information. So on the chance that they ended up loose, as soon as you scan it, you would find out that it belongs to so-and-so.
The mobile clinic, you haven't had this mobile clinic long. How long have you had the mobile clinic?
Well, we actually have had it for a few years.
Okay.
Unfortunately, our challenge has been staffing for it. We've had a significant challenge with securing full-time veterinarian help, not only at the shelter, but then to have the surplus to go out in the community and do some of this type of work. So that remains a challenge and a struggle for us. This is officially our first event was October 22nd.
Oh, okay, okay.
And so we hope to build and grow on that and learn from what we did that day and use some of the survey data from the folks who were there that day to better position our services to meet the needs that folks have. But I can tell you, even without some of those survey results, a large portion of it is just basic veterinary care and affordable spay and neuter.
They were vaccinated, being
Yes.
vaccinated for what?
Distemper, parvo,
Okay.
adenovirus. I believe those were the three included.
Okay.
That's
Well,
one of the standard.
Okay,
vaccines
okay,
over
great.
there.
Hey, that's obviously there's a need. You did 64. You said 64
Yes.
in that one day, and sold 45 licenses
Yeah.
that one
Yeah.
day. And so what a successful event. I just happened to stumble on it and was there at the same time, and it was pretty impressive to see people standing in line with their animals, with their dogs, and everybody was well behaved. You had to clean up a little bit every once in a while, but everyone was pretty well behaved. It was pretty impressive. It's clearly a need, and people were clearly being responsive to that, and it has to make you feel good about it.
It absolutely did. Yes.
So there are other things that if people want to be involved, and you do volunteers, do volunteer people volunteer at the shelter. There are opportunities for them to do things
There are.
that
Yeah.
they can do.
We have probably a dozen volunteer roles, if you will. So
Okay.
we've tried our best to actually create position descriptions, almost like a team member, right, or a staff member, to be more specific about here's what we need. Things like videographers, photographers,
Oh wow.
helping our clinic, whether it's cleaning surgery packs for the day or just cleaning the clinic in general, office support, event support, so joining us at events only, maybe that's your thing, you prefer that over anything else, dog walking. I could go on. So our website actually has, under the Get Involved page, all of those positions for volunteer are listed there, so you can see if there's something that piques your interest.
And let's give them that website address.
Sure. It's mcanimals.org.
Okay.
And then if you select the Get Involved page, there's a spot there to learn more about volunteering and what that looks like, and you can also sign up online.
The out at the Animal Resource Center, in behind the hill behind is the Bark Park.
Yes.
You want to talk about the Bark Park a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, I think the Bark Park is a really hidden gem in so many ways. Pretty neat that it operates in more of a reuse, recycle fashion, and that the ash monophyll was located on that big hill there.
Yeah, I'm not sure everybody realizes that I'm old enough to know this, but that hill back there it was an old ash site from the old incinerators, the North incinerators that the county operated for a number of years.
Right.
No longer operate the incinerators, but that was the ash dump, and so. Yeah, so it's a nice use of that space.
It's wonderful because it's neat to see. You can look out our windows most days in the spring, summer, and fall to notice that dogs are just having their best time hopping around, usually off leash. So I would caution folks to just make sure that that's what you're looking for your pet. But it's a wonderful roaming area, fenced in.
Big area,
Very good.
and fenced. Like I said, fenced in. It doesn't look like an asheville, but
No.
but
Looks like a beautiful hill.
it does. It does. It gets a lot, like you say, it gets lots of use, and people enjoy going out there with their pets, and so rewarding. Then you've 31 years. It's clearly a rewarding experience.
Absolutely, and something else is the difference that I've watched, the things that I've watched change. Just the level of responsibility with pet owners from when I started way back in the day until now. When I started at 19, the only other place I had ever heard spay and neuter your pets was Bob Barker.
Bob Barker. Okay.
Watching Price is Right with my grandma.
Okay.
So I was like, oh, so this is what they were talking about. But from then to now, the community as a whole has changed so much that it has began to sink in that you do need to spay and neuter your pets and how important it is. Back then, we would pick up 18,000 dogs a year because people weren't spaying and neutering. And then something that the animal shelter did that instantly started making a noticeable difference is when you adopted from the shelter, they originally had given you a certificate good for $60 at a vet.
Okay.
What we found was people weren't going and using that certificate. So when we switched to spaying and neutering the dogs at the Animal Resource Center, the stray numbers went down because folks before that would adopt a dog, take it home, it would have puppies, and so on and so forth, and we weren't actually helping the numbers. And then once we started spaying and neutering the dogs at the shelter before they left, the numbers of strays started going down. And then something else that made a big difference, when the shelter started vaccinating every dog that came in. Before that, and I've been around long enough to see trends, there would be mass trends of distemper We would be bringing in dogs every day, dying of distemper.
Oh, wow.
Or parvo. We would track parvo throughout neighborhoods, and we would watch it on a map as parvo would spread. And if you own a dog, you've probably heard of parvo. But that's not the case now. And when you think about the thousands of dogs that have came through the shelter and have been vaccinated, whereas those dogs would not have been vaccinated before, that has proven to be a huge changer. So the vaccines and the spay and neuterings, those are two things that, with my own eyes, I've seen change over the years. And the progression and the way people take care of their dogs today compared to, say, 20, 30 years ago, that has also changed. They're companion animals now. They're not just the dog in the backyard to bark when a squirrel goes by. Now they're a part of
You're part of the family. They're part of the family.
And, not everyone, when they get their dog, get a handbook. Say, this is how you be a good pet owner. But, you see in programs like this where, do I really need a dog license? Yeah, because, my dog never gets loose. Well, things happen. Storms blow fences over, and things happen. If there's a fire at your house while you're not home, and the fire department has to break in the door to go in and put out the fire, and your dog runs off, you want that tag on you. There's many things that can happen where, going back to the tags and just how important it is, we'll be able to get a hold of you. And you can put 2 or 3 phone numbers on there. And the police also use it as a resource. We work with the police, and it's a way for us to get a hold of you if something happens at your home.
We were talking before we went on the air. We were talking about the tornado back in 2019, and there were a number of dogs that were lost during the tornado or ran away during the tornado, and different stories about how being recovered. Or there were probably some that we don't know that were probably never found. I don't know, but I do know the story of Duke when we gave Duke the #1 tag that year. Because Duke had been missing for 5 months, and finally found Duke. Duke came home after 5 months, and Duke was a cane corso. Is that what it is? So it's a big dog, a big animal. So probably people were. He did not have a collar. He didn't have a license. And so I remember his owner saying, "Well, they learned their lesson. He obviously needed. If he had had a license, it might have been returned sooner." He was probably intimidated from people too, because he's a big guy.
Yeah.
But those types of things happen. People's your fence gets blown over or whatever, and the dog gets loose, and so it's important to make sure that the animal gets back, and also shows someone loves him, someone wants him back, or they wouldn't have licensed him. Not to mention that, again, the funds that are raised from the licensing goes to support the work at the Animal Resource Center. So, it goes to support stray animals, the health and care of that, and so that's important, too, for the community.
Yeah.
Having a bunch of stray animals running around the community loose that have not been vaccinated or have not been treated with proper health care, it's not good for the community either.
Yeah.
We, I know, our dog was one that was hit by a car and found on the side of the road that we adopted and was cared for out at the Animal Resource. There's a Tiny Tim Fund. You still run the Tiny Tim Fund, and this is for animals that have been injured or.
Yeah, for animals that require medical care that really exceeds our budgetary means, we have that fund available to fall back on.
People have donated to, and so I know our dog was a beneficiary of the Tiny Tim Fund, a fund that people contributed to. He'd been hit by a car and had to have some major surgery, and for his leg. His leg is now, his left rear leg is about a ½ inch shorter than his other legs, and people ask me all the time, so does he walk with a limp? And I said, oh no, he doesn't limp, he walks with a swagger. So there's other things that the Animal Resource Center, don't you do some classes on proper care?
We do. We do. We actually have 2 separate training classes. The first is what you're talking about, which is our animal awareness program.
Okay.
And we offer that a lot of times when we're working with folks on proper care, and even in a situation where perhaps they may be cited for a failure to follow the Ohio Revised Code. So in those situations, we will offer that program in lieu of the citation, so that they can, instead of having the cite, just learn about some of these things that are concerning so they can avoid them in the future. Our other class is a part of our free training, or excuse me, a part of our adoptions, and we call it our free training class. And for the lifetime that you own a pet you adopt from the Animal Resource Center, you
Okay.
can make use of that free training class. So every month we have that class. You can schedule yourself to come in, learn how to teach basic training cues, all the way up to getting help with something more challenging. So it's a wonderful resource that is very much underutilized.
I may need to bring Winston in for that. Of course, now Winston's 12 years old. You can't teach an old dog new tricks, right? Winston's 12 now, but he still learns a new thing every once in a while, so we may need to bring him in. Well, I really appreciate you all being with us today. Again, we're in dog license season, so we want to remind people to license their pet or to renew their license when this is airing in December, and so it'll be on the air throughout December. But we have the due date for license is
December 1st through January 31st.
December 1st through January 31st, and if they fail to get their license renewed by January 31st, what happens?
Well, not only would you be subject to paying a penalty, so you'll pay double to get the license after January 31st, but you're also running the risk of running into citations or other forms of law enforcement.
Right. So again, we want to encourage people. It's the right thing to do, plus it's the financially right thing to do. So we want to encourage people to get their license renewed here between the month of December and January. And they can do that a variety of ways. Certainly you can go out to the Animal Resource Center. You're selling them right there out on
Yes.
out on Webster Street, right?
Mhm.
Webster.
Yep.
You can go out to the Animal Resource Center. You can also go onto our website, mcanimals.org.
Okay.
You can go out to the Montgomery County Administration Building. And if you're in a situation where you're not able to get out or you don't have access to the internet, you can call and request an animal control officer, and we'll deliver you one.
There you go. And I've run into Brian at some remote locations
Yes.
sometimes. You guys go out in the community some.
Yes. Like Trotwood Police Department, there will be a date or two in January. You can call us, and we probably will actually have a list of locations on our website. But you can always call and check when we're going to be in your area. We'll have outposts throughout license sales.
Yeah, we have about 12 outposts around. A lot of government centers. I know Germantown Government Center, Miami Township, Huber Heights,
Inglewood.
A lot of government centers will the Kettering Police Department offer that. And then there's some pet supply stores. I know Robin's Nest in Germantown I've been to many times, sells licenses during the season for us, and veterinary clinics and Brubaker's. I think it's Brubaker's Pet Supply or Farm Supply up in Brookville. So there's a lot of places around. But again, as you mentioned, more than half of our dog licenses are now sold over the internet, and so it's been an interesting development over the years of how much people have become comfortable using that.
Yes, you can get on your phone, go to the Montgomery County website, and in just a couple minutes, you have your dog license on the way.
Right. So again, thank you for joining us. A phone number? Is there a phone number that people can call if they need to?
Sure. We're at 937-898-4457.
All right. Well, thank you, Amy. Thank you, Brian, for being my guest, and that will wrap us up for this month's episode of Odds and Ends. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, Carl.